Before I took office, there were a lot of folks out there making some pretty bold predictions about how things would turn out.
But if Biden wins, your borders are gone.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
A new migrant caravan of up to 7,000 people now passing through Mexico, heading straight for the U.S. southern border.
I've asked her, the VP, today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help us. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks, stemming the migration.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Back now with the record number of migrants crossing into the U.S., pushing resources to the limit in many American cities.
Former Vice President Joe Biden promised to give free federal health care to anyone in the world who illegally crosses our border.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
His plan to provide government health care to illegal immigrants would bankrupt our health care system.
Tonight, one of Colorado's largest hospitals facing a crisis. Physicians at Denver Health telling us they treat everyone who comes to the ER regardless of immigration status or ability to pay. But they're struggling to handle a spike in migrant patients.
It's been really, really hard to take care of them, both in terms of their inability to pay, but also just the sheer volume of patients that we weren't expecting.
We did it, Joe.
The middle class is gone.
I don't understand anymore. I don't understand how I make $34 an hour and I can't function. I can't function. I can't pay my bills. I can't even literally keep gas in my car to get to work 3 days a week.
The average family in America has lost nearly $6,000 in purchasing power. The average 401k is down $34,000, more than 25% in less than 1 year.
I think this just underlines how badly the middle class is getting crushed, and the media doesn't want to talk about it. Certainly the administration doesn't want to talk about it. You know what the average FICO score for the new home equity lines was in Q3? 792.
What?
The average.
How?
Meaning the answer is only incredibly wealthy people that have got the juice were able to get the home equity line.
We did it, Joe.
Your safety is gone.
WGN investigates violent crime in the suburbs. It's on the rise. Tonight, we identify several suburbs that have seen an explosion in shootings and murders.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels. That they're not going to let up, and they should not.
Data shows shootings were at an all-time high last year, with the majority of the crime in 3 Seattle City neighborhoods.
The number of people killed in Minneapolis is up 95% from the same time last summer.
Second New York City police officer to die in a shooting last month in Harlem will be laid to rest today.
Gas prices going $5, $6, $7 for a gallon.
I guarantee we're going to end fossil fuel. No new fracking.
I'd gradually move away from fracking.
They want to do the same thing I want to do. They want to phase out fossil fuels, and we're going to phase out fossil fuels.
This morning, gas prices soaring to the highest average ever recorded, $4.17 a gallon.
How long is it fair to expect American drivers and drivers around the world to pay that premium for this war?
As long as it takes.
We did it, Joe.
Flood your communities with criminal aliens, drugs, and crime.
Steve Natasha, we've been hearing for a while now about a group of migrants connected to a string of robberies, and today the NYPD is taking action.
The men swarmed around the officers already on the ground by this point, striking them both multiple times.
You want to know why our cops are getting assaulted? There's no consequences.
Those guys were freed without bail.
And now look at this. Here's one suspect flipping the bird to the cameras. Could care less. Another blows kisses as he smiles and laughs. The other suspect next to him also putting up the middle fingers and cursing at those reporters. Remorseless, brazen, smug.
We did it, Joe.
To spend trillions of dollars rebuilding foreign nations, fighting foreign wars, and defending foreign borders.
I'm sending Congress a supplemental budget request. It's going to allow pensions and social support to be paid to the Ukrainian people so they have something in their pocket.
Now, I say additional $10 billion because he had already asked Congress to authorize $22.5 billion. So this would be another $10 billion on top of that. Okay.
The president defending his expected Friday request to Congress, an unprecedented estimated $105 billion in security funding for Israel and Ukraine. $60 billion is said to be slated for the fight against Russia.
We did it, Joe.
So for all those predictions of doom and gloom, here's where we stand.
You want to use the word recession or depression?
Well, the United States recorded its second consecutive negative GDP report today, something that traditionally means we're in a recession. President Biden dismissed the negative growth, saying it doesn't sound like the U.S. is in a recession.
And you know Biden, he can't stand up to the lunatics running his party. He can't even find his way off the stage.
Look, the bottom line is this.
I say you're not doing a very good job.
The news is getting worse for Biden, from a 4-point lead to a 5-point deficit now over the matter of 9 months or so. The approval rating has a lot to do with that. You mentioned 37%, the lowest we've ever recorded Biden at in our poll, the lowest any president's clocked in at.
But many of those people were there to protest the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. So, this week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming down. I wonder, is it George Washington next week? And is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You know, you really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
The statue of Thomas Jefferson in the city council chamber has been removed. The statue was taken down from its pedestal earlier today to be moved to the New York Historical Society. Some council members had objected to its presence because of Jefferson's history as a slave owner.
In another case, the student newspaper of the University of Virginia, founded and built by Thomas Jefferson, has now advocated removing all references to Thomas Jefferson.
For the second time in a month and a half, a statue of Abraham Lincoln is vandalized by anti-colonizer activists.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China.
What you
None of that is true.
He made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
So it's from two different debates, but I mean, Trump was right. I mean, he did make a fortune from China, and Joe Biden was wrong.
Well. How the turntables.
We did it, Joe.